When looking for sim racing skills to master, you generally want to learn the easiest skills that can be applied to any car and any set of pedals or controller. And you want skills that can keep you on track and avoid spinning as much as possible. From iRacing to F125 to real life Formula One, this technique is essential for getting strong exits that avoid understeer. If you found yourself lagging at corner exits or smoothly applying the throttle just to understeer out of the corner, this technique is for you. The technique I want to talk to you about is throttle jump. Sulio has called the speed of throttle application, and others have coined this as going after the pedals. This goes against the concept of smooth is fast. It's about utilizing the available mechanical grip and the additional downforce that the car has. First, I want to show you the basic technique. Then I will show you the more advanced nuances to it. So as it sounds, it's jumping from 0% throttle input to a throttle input, let's say around 50% very fast. Then once you're at that input, it's slowly squeezing that throttle as you unwind your steering and take the car out to the exit of the corner. The jump on throttle benefits the car's ability to get rotation in a couple ways. One, it helps get the engine into a more optimal RPM range faster, so you're not lagging the engine as much. It aggressively shifts the weight of the car rearward, giving you a bit more rear grip on the tires. And it can give you some throttle-induced rotation for rear-wheel drive cars. Obviously, the amount of jump will depend on the power of the car, the speed of the corner, and the track or curb surface. A high-powered car at low corner speed on slippery curbs might have little to no throttle jump. Here, we can see Ismail Fassi, someone who uses this technique well at Australia. At these third and fourth gear corners, a nice jump onto throttle to get the car rotated. Nice jumps of 50% throttle at the apex of the corner, not before the corner, otherwise you'll either will miss the exit or we'll have to then release the throttle later. Yano Atmir, another driver who uses this technique well in Mexico. Sector 1, really big, 50 to 60% jumps on throttle, with lots of modulation in his inputs, something that Yano does very well in his driving style. Continuing on into sectors 2 and sector 3 corners, big jumps on throttle, at these third and fourth gear corners. But this technique doesn't just work well in F125. It works well in LMU GT3 cars, where you have traction control. You can jump often to 100% immediately, as Marcel Kiefer shows here in some of these mid to high speed corners, as well as LMP2 cars, a bit less aggressive than the GT3 because of the horsepower and delayed torque range and a bit differences in the traction control, but again, big throttle jumps shown by Marcel Kiefer. Also in iRacing, F4, this technique works well too. At Coda, again we see big throttle jumps. This technique, even in real life F125, it works well. Telemetry from Coda shows Lando Norris doing this technique well in the S's and some of the hairpin corners. Now I told you there's an advanced technique that drivers are doing, so here it is. It is something called throttle overshoot. I made up the name throttle jump, and I made up the name throttle overshoot to describe what many top drivers are doing. The name comes from a controls engineering perspective. You may have often seen that as soon as drivers are jumping on the throttle, they are often making a small correction to their input, slightly reducing their input in a small dip before then continuing upward. You see iRacing laps, LMU laps, real life F1 laps using this technique. Yarno, sometimes there's what we might call a double overshoot. He modulates the pedal twice before continuing upward in the throttle application. Very unique. The reason I think this works well is one, the engine revs, and it can help the car break traction some and start getting a small amount of wheel spin in the rear tires. So tires have an increased coefficient of friction when there's a small amount of wheel slip, usually around 10%. This is why when you launch a car from stop, some amount of wheel spin is good. So a bit of wheel spin at the apex of the corner can provide a bit of increased grip, but you don't want too much wheel spin. So that may be one reason why there's a slight dip in the throttle percentage after you induce a bit of wheel spin. If you have any other ideas of why this is so common, let me know in the comments. Now, there are some risks to the throttle jump. If you jump aggressively on throttle when you're on a curb that you usually are not, you're going to get a big snap of oversteer or maybe a spin, as shown here. Additionally, this technique seems to be changed when you're following other cars closely because it changes in grip from dirty air and just the closeness of the racing. But overall, this is an essential technique you need to learn if you want to be fast, and something that I've not seen talked about very much. As always, thanks so much for watching, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye.